I basically spent like 3 years trying to understand like what is happiness, what is the meaning of my life, like these super deep questions, right? That like you don't really start asking yourself, but I think all of us should ask ourselves these type of questions because it helps ground you in like, where am I going? When I was 21, I just had this real interest in trying to do a business. You know, I didn't really think of it as necessarily like a startup as we do in today's terms. It was just like I just wanted to be an entrepreneur at any cost, really. And so there was an opportunity at the time. I was taking this like entrepreneurship class, and there was like we had to create a business model essentially. And I took it all the way. Like I really wanted to create this business, and the business idea that I came up with was just basically an electronics company. Think about it as like a mini Best Buy. And so I pitched this business plan, and I had a lot of conviction about it. And so we really, we went around to a couple banks. My business partner and I, who was also a junior at the college I went to, Fort Lewis College, and it was really difficult for us to get money. So essentially, we found some friends and family to give us some seed funding to start this like basically this tiny little 700 square foot retail electronics business. And the first day we opened up, man, there was this guy that walked in and he was like, "Is this your going out of business sale?" And I'm like, No, that's this is our first day of business.
Oh, geez.
Because we didn't really have we didn't have any product. We didn't really know what the hell we were doing. And so it's surprising that it even worked out. But I think it taught me a lot about just entrepreneurship in general. Just I think there was this romantic idea that I have of entrepreneurship back then.
Yeah.
And when I found out, really getting into the weeds of it, it was the most stressful experience in the world. And now that I'm in corporate America, it's interesting to see how corporate America and entrepreneurship are very, very different. So, but that electronics business, I had that company, man, for 9 years. I was fortunate enough to grow that to a couple million in sales.
Oh, wow.
I had 10 employees full time. So yeah, it's definitely not, from a product management scenario or product management mindset, it definitely was not in that realm at all. It was just like straight up like retail business, hustle, get sales, like close deals, get bids, things like that. So much different than kind of what I'm doing today.
So the skill of sales is like super important for everyone.
Yeah.
And I sort of, in a way, have seen you promote that on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Because everyone has to sell themselves during like a job interview.
Totally.
And a lot of your YouTube content is sort of framed towards that, like how to sell yourself on LinkedIn or how to sell yourself in the job interview, which I super appreciate. A lot of it is really, good advice.
Thanks, man.
What kind of steered you into this pathway where you decided, you know what, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to start a following on LinkedIn for that, that media?
Yeah, man. So I think there was like one particular event which launched this whole kind of self-exploratory mission that I went on. And after my first business, I felt like was a success, right? I could say like it had this, these great sales and everything. So I took the earnings from that business, which I sold that company in 2012 to my business partner. So the company's still, in business today, which I feel proud of, that it wasn't just like, dissolved. And I took those earnings, I started up a second company, which was actually more of a software startup company, because I was really interested in kind of bridging the gap and going from retail business and sales to like, how do I create some apps, create a product and start selling it to the market? So the idea for me at that point is this company was called EOS Controls. So I moved down to Miami, Florida from Durango, Colorado, and I was like, I'm going to go big. I'm going to start selling to condos in Miami, and like Brickell, and Coral Gables, basically anywhere that had like some condos. The business was essentially a smart home technology software and hardware company. So I went down to China and I was like putting a package of products together before Google Home was popular, before Nest and all this stuff came out. Like we were on the forefront of this thing, but long story short is that it failed. And when it failed, I put all my money into it, right? So I lost all my money, and I was in a bad spot, man.
Mm-hmm.
I had a baby on the way, first kid, and I was intensely stressed out, intensely depressed from the failure of that company. I had spent 10 years kind of defining myself as a successful entrepreneur, whatever you consider that to be, right? Like I thought I was successful, and when that was all stripped away from me, I really had to kind of curl back and understand, like, who am I in general? Like, what do I stand for? And so it was like a real soul-searching mission for me, man. And like what I came up with, I basically spent like 3 years trying to understand, like, what is happiness? What is the meaning of my life? Like these super deep questions, right? That like you don't really start asking yourself, but I think all of us should ask ourselves these type of questions, because it helps ground you in like, where am I going?
Yeah.
And so the start of the YouTube channel was essentially, I was asking myself this question, like, what would be the one thing that I would do that I didn't need to make money doing, and how does it help others?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would I be passionate about something without money as the concern, as the primary driver, and how does it actually affect somebody else's life? And so I started the YouTube channel as I was like, I'm just going to try to help one person, And so, now it's been 2 years, and like YouTube's like a very long game strategy. It's like a very, very slow, multi-year process. But it's not about the money for me. I just love connecting with people and helping people with their journeys, and also helping them kind of dive into these deep questions.